Good morning, everyone, or should I say, good very late at night. Today has been a hell of a day. I did not get to record at all today. I got up late because I had a late night, then had to immediately go to work. Work was crunch time. There's an over lunch. All I did was run with Porter, and then after lunch, I had to run Porter, and then I had to go make an appointment. And then I got back, and then I had just enough time to make food and walk Porter before I went to the gym. And I got back from the gym, and then I had to finish up some household stuff. And like now it's late. I'm gonna be sacrificing a little bit of sleep to bring you this video today. But we're here and we're in it. So today I've got I'm gonna call this Orzhov Devotion because it's kind of mono black, but it's also not mono black. Every land in the deck taps for black, and that's what matters. The idea being, we use the really powerful one-drop suite of Inquisition, Thoughtseizes, Fatal Push, and Path. The former two for disrupting our opponent's plays, the latter two for answering our opponent's creatures, as really efficient means of trading cards to try and grind the opponent out a bit. In the 2-drop slot, we have Collective Brutality. It just kind of does a little bit of everything. And we have Gifted Aetherborn, which is a 2-mana, 2/3 Death Touch lifelink. It is Vampire Nighthawk without the flying for 1 less. And it's just a really efficient creature. Trades up, gains you life versus aggro. Something very powerful, a good reason to be playing mono black. In the 3-drop slot, we have Lingering Souls for more grind value. We also have Liliana of the Veil and Kaya Orzhov Usurper as our 3-mana like Planeswalker sort of stacks attrition engines. 1 singleton Phyrexian Arena to help offset the mutual discard from Liliana, and the 1-for-1 of all of our 1-drops and 2-drops. And then in the 4-drop slot, we're starting to get to the powerhouses of the deck. So our first 4-drop is we have a Kalidas, Trader of Get. He's a 4-mana, 3/4 lifelink. He makes you tokens when your opponent's creatures die. You can sack a vampire or a zombie, and you can put counters on him. But generally, just him being a 4-mana, 3/4 lifelink is good enough. And the fact that when your opponent's creatures die, you get zombies is just huge. He's legendary, so we only have 1 of him. And our other 4-drop is the poster child of 4-drops. It is the Ferexian Obliterator. It's just 4-mana, 5/5, quadrupipped black mana creature. It has trample, and it says whenever a source a source deals damage to Ferexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. So if your opponent shoots Ferexian Obliterator with a lightning bolt, they have to sacrifice 3 permanents. This card is absolutely nasty, and just in general has been a little bit too slow to see play in a lot of modern formats. He's a little bit worse now, because before, in ages long past, he was just too slow. But now he's also still a little bit slow, and now Fatal Push hits him, Bloodchief's Thirst hits him, and there's also Dismember and Path running around in the format. So there's a lot of answers to this card, but hopefully with our discard suite, we can empty out our opponent's hand, and they won't have any answers for Phyrexian Obliterator. His text basically reads unblockable, but it's not quite unblockable. And then finally, in the 5-drop slot, we have our Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which is a 5-mana 2/4 zombie that when it enters, your opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black, aka the number of black mana symbols in permanents you control on the battlefield. So with things like Obliterator, Gifted Aetherborn, Liliana of the Veil, we should have a lot of black mana symbols sticking around on the board, so hopefully Grey Merchant can come down, gain us a bunch of life, huge swing versus aggro, or just fireball our opponent out of the game. Out of the sideboard, we have Disenchant Stony Silence and Anguished Unmaking to kind of hit on artifacts, enchantments. We have Rest in Peace for Grave Hate. We have Comball for Anti-Storm, Anti-Time Warp, kind of like control. We have a Liliana the Last Hope, which is good versus green decks playing Mana Dorks, as well as another way to end the game. If Planeswalkers are good versus our opponent, we can definitely bring her in. We have another Phyrexian Arena if we determine that the grind is worth it. An Extinction Event, kind of as our board wipe of choice. I think this card is an excellent blackboard wipe because you can generally get value out of it while keeping your creatures around, and we basically only have even mana cost creatures because we have tokens, 2-drops, 4-drops, and we have 1 5-drop, but if we're casting Extinction Event post Grey Merchant, something weird has happened. We also have an Eradicator Valkyrie, which is kind of just another weird grind creature. It does synergize with Lingering Souls quite well, though. Ashiok Dreamrender, you know, hates on people searching their decks, hates on graveyards. It's pretty good. And we have Fulminator Mage versus stuff like presumably Tron. Let's get this very tired Modern League started. I'll see you guys in round 1. Alrighty, round 1, Orzhov Devotion. Let's see how we do. Wow, my camera is out of focus. Holy crap. Okay, that's a lot better. This hand is fine. It's a Thoughtseize on turn 1 into a Liliana on turn 3. So I'm going to keep. Alright. Opponent finally accepts priority. And F6s through their first turn after mulling to 5. We draw Collective Brutality. Start Swamp into Thoughtseize. This may force our opponent to scoop. Aha, it did not. They are Dredge. Take Cathartic Reunion. Pass the turn. Now their hand is really bad. I think them F6ing through their primary turn was probably a mistake. They drew Shriekhorn, which is a fair top deck. We untap. We draw Inquisition. I do not want to Inquisition my opponent. Pass the turn. I don't even really want to play Lily and uptick. Opponent mills themselves, milling Cathartic and Ox. They untap. They play a Blood Crypt tapped, so they're probably not playing anything out of hand. We don't really have any main deck Grave Hate. We untap. We draw Gifted Aetherborn. Play Shambling Vent. Play Gifted Aetherborn. Pass the turn. Opponent haggles, so they get to Dredge. Opponent untaps. They're going to Dredge Stinkweed Imp. They get a Narcomoeba. This will give them back a Prized Amalgam. They mill themselves in response. So now they're going to Ox. So I can't imagine they really do anything else. I would kind of like to top deck Obliterator. I think that would be good. There's the Ox. Triggering Amalgam again. They dump their hand, which consists of 3 cards with Dredge. They dredge, and they dredge. Getting a Creeping Chill. The only real thing of concern they dredged there was a Conflagrate. We untap. We draw an Urborg. We don't want to Inquisition them. That would be bad. So what do we do here? Play a Swamp for sure. So let's see. Opponent still has, in theory, 3 Creeping Chills in their deck. Next turn, they can Dredge Thug, go to 20 cards in their deck, and then replay an Ox. Kind of want to path this Ox. Brutality, Kill, and Drain. I don't want to cast Inquisition, and Lily is very minimum here. Oh, if I path the Ox, though, they get green, because I think... No, they don't play any basic forests. I'm pretty sure they don't play any basic forests, so I'm going to path the Ox. Wow, they don't have any basics. Alright. 2 modes. Kill and Drain. Pitch Inquisition. Go to combat. Hit them for 2. Pass the turn. Alright. Opponent Conflagrates to kill Gifted Aetherborn and ditch their Dredgers. They hit us for 3. We go to 15. Okay, we untap. We draw a Swamp, which is not really what I wanted to draw. So, we're going to play a Cruel Edict here. And by that I mean we're going to play Liliana and downticker. Pass the turn. Opponent will get to Dredge and then play Ox if they want to. I mean, they have to be a little bit careful. They don't have green mana, so Loam does not help them. They can't, like, charge up a big Conflagrate to finish this off. It's gonna have to be creature damage. So they dredge Imp. This is their third Creeping Chill, so they only have one more. Alright, here comes an Ox. They do have to be a little bit careful about dredging here, but only a little bit. We'll probably be dead before it's relevant. I could draw Obliterator. That would be fun. Although, I think we might still be in trouble if that's the case. I'm trying to think of what we can draw that's actually going to matter here. I think Lingering Souls would be good, because that would give us enough blockers to last a turn. Opponent gets back an Ox, which is going to give back 2 Prized Amalgams. They ditch their hand. They dredge Loam. They dredge Loam. And it looks like they dredge Loam. We get Creeping Chill. The opponent gets a Narcomoeba. So they're actually going to get back 3 Prized Amalgams this turn. And then I think they're going to start top decking, trying to hit just lands. I'm not sure we can win with basically any draw in our deck right now. Even Souls. And Swamp is definitely not it. So they got us, despite F6ing through their first turn. Versus Dredge, we definitely want Dream Render. I think we definitely want Extinction Event. And we also definitely want Rest in Peace. The question is, what else comes out? Versus our opponent, I think our discard is mostly bad. I'm going to drop the Thoughtseizes. I'll keep the Inquisitions, because we could still snag a Cathartic. Lily, I do not like that much here. Brutality at least has the mode of taking, like, counter Grave Hate away from them. Yeah, maybe we just cut more Inquisitions and stick to Fatal Push Path. Alright, try like this. We'll play first. Well, we have Ashiok, but Ashiok might be too slow. I guess we'll find out. Alright. I'll start Marsh Flats, pass the turn. I don't think well... Alright, I am going to crack Marsh Flats. I know, like, in theory I might need it for Fatal Push or something, but I'm going to get a Godless Shrine right away. Alright, opponent resolves a Shriekhorn. We untap. We draw Phyrexian Arena. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent mills 2 lands. They untap. They mill Cathartic Reunion and Prized Amalgam, so no Dredge for our opponent. We really want to top deck a land. We're playing 24 of them, so hopefully we do. Opponent plays a Blood Crypt tapped and Conflagrate for 0. I really need to draw land. Amazing. Alright, I'm an Inquisition. In theory, this only speeds my opponent up, but pass the turn. So we know our opponent has a Arid Mesa and a Stinkweed Imp. They probably just Conflagrate us for 2. Okay, they dredge into a Stinkweed. Oh, man. The fact that we did not draw land there is absolutely the worst. So our opponent is holding 2 Stinkweeds and an Arid Mesa. They play Arid Mesa, getting back a Bloodghast. And now Ashiok is too slow. If we top deck only running lands, we might be okay. If I Fatal Push this Bloodghast, they get it back for free. So probably shouldn't do that. Haha, very funny game. Alright, play Shambling Vent, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They dredge into a Narcomoeba. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks for 8. We can Fatal Push to save ourselves 2 life. Take 6, go to 10. We untap. We draw Extinction Event. It's a funny game. It's real funny. Okay. What do we do? To play Ashiok down tick, my opponent just fetches, gets back Bloodghast, and has 9 power on board. We go to 1. That's unacceptable. Extinction Event, my opponent has 2 different types of converted mana costs. We only have 1 Fatal Push. Yeah, I guess we have to go for the Ashiok plan here. Then we have to, like, draw a Swamp and have, I don't know, Lingering Souls Fatal Push? I don't even think that does it. Yeah, alright, we're just gonna go to game 3. Oh, never mind. We lost game 1. What was I thinking? I'm so tired. I'm sorry, everybody. But we weren't winning that game. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty. Round 2, here we go. Alright, we got Thoughtseize turn 1, Thoughtseize turn 2. Hopefully we draw land by turn 3. Opponent starts Bloodstained Mire into a mountain, into a Goblin Guide, which means our Thoughtseizes are probably not that great. We do draw land, though, which is good. And an Inquisition, which is also good. So Inquisition, Searing Blaze should not be relevant most of this game, so we take Eidolon. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. We're going to get skewered this turn. Play Arid Mesa. They attack. We draw Polluted Delta down to 16. Get skewered. Untap. We draw Kalitas. Play Shambling Vent. Now we have to discard. I'm going to discard a Thoughtseize. I really doubt there's anything in my opponent's hand I actually need to Thoughtseize. And technically I could take Searing Blaze. But I think by the time that Searing Blaze would do anything, a lot of other things are already a problem. Okay. Play Isolated Chapel. We either play Kaya or we play... I'm going to play Lily. I think Lily make my opponent's sack is better. And they lose their Eidolon, pass the turn. Opponent bolts Lily. That's great. Lily just gained us like 5 life. Opponent plays a land, passes. We draw Collective Brutality. Alright. I didn't come here to not obliterate. Like, playing Kaya, upticking, and then leaving up Fatal Push was probably the absolute best play we had. Oh, that's right. Searing Blaze me. Oh, do it. Searing Blaze. Alright, sack 3 permanents. Alright, sack all your lands. Opponent is now in top deck mode. Double Searing Blaze on my Obliterator. Oh, jeez. Alright, we draw an Isolated Chapel. Play Isolated Chapel. Play Kaya. Start gaining life. You know what? 2 mode. Pitch this Thoughtseize we're not using. Take Boros Charm from him. Hey, we're already back to 9. Opponent untaps and passes. We draw Marsh Flats. Uptick Kaya, take Goblin Guide and Skewer. Alright, game's over. I mean, in a way, it's like they had to double Fire Blast our Obliterator to get him off the board. That was sick. I will never have an Obliterator play that good ever again. I'm going to bring in Combo. I'm going to bring in Eradicator Valkyrie because it has the word lifelink on it. What do I take out? I think those 2 cards come in for sure. I think in the general sense, while Obliterator was amazing there, you know what? We're just going to take out some Thoughtseizes. Is there anything I can bring in over another Thoughtseize? I don't think so. Like maybe Ashiok, so my opponent can't fetch, but I really doubt that's going to matter. This deck has so much life gain and attrition in it. We should actually have a fairly decent burn matchup now that I think about it. Okay, making it to 3 is going to be tough with our opponent on the play in that hand. I'm going to mulligan. This hand, way better. I really want 1 Kalitas, so I'm going to put back a Lingering Souls. Opponent starts Inspiring Vantage into a Swift Spear. They hit us for 1. We untap, draw Path, play a Swamp, Inquisition. Opponent's got Boros Charm, Lightning Helix, Skullcrack, Eidolon. Take Eidolon. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They probably just like Mountain Boros Charm. Hit us for 2. Yup. We go down to 13. Untap. We draw Gray Merchant. Play Polluted Delta. And I don't think I can fetch and shock for a path here. I can't just take a free bolt, even if it saves me 2 life. I would take actually only 1 more damage than I would otherwise. So I would take 6 here instead of 5, but then my mana... You know what? It is worth it. I don't want to do this at all. But my mana next turn is so terrible if I don't do this. Alright, we untap. We draw a Fatal Push. I mean, I suppose... Well, cast Lingering Souls. We get Helixed. We're down to 7. I mean, if they've got land, Skullcrack, Boros Charm, we're dead. I mean, that obviously excluded tap lands. We untap, draw Path, play Lingering Souls, go to combat. I absolutely will Path a token. Attack our opponent for 2. The problem is that Skullcrack. Pass the turn. We're getting skull cracked. Alright, path a tapped spirit. Get a swamp. Because Searing Blaze has 2 legal targets, it doesn't matter if I path a token that was like targeted with Searing Blaze. Opponent plays Goblin Guide, goes to combat, and attacks. We reveal Inquisition. I will double block. 3 mana, opponent casts Skewer. We have 2 lines. We can Inquisition our opponent, take anything that isn't a land that they have, and anything that isn't a land will probably kill us unless it's a creature. Or we can play Kalitas. We basically have to play and connect with Kalitas in order to win. Even if we draw a land next turn and can play Grey Merchant, it only takes us up to within bolt range. So it's doubtful my opponent is holding a land because there's no reason for them to sandbag this land. I guess unless they were thinking they were going to draw like a Searing Blaze or something. I think the only actual play, though, we have right now is Kalitas. And we are going to leave the Spirit back to block as well, just in case my opponent has 2 haste creatures. But I think we're dead. Yeah. So, my opponent pretty much had a non-land spell there, but we were basically... If I Inquisitioned and took their spell and they top-decked a land, we would have to play Kalitas the turn after, then they would have to top-deck a land again. Like, it's the same number of draws either way. It just amounts to 1 draw and 1 card in hand. So... I think that was fine. We'll be on the play for game 3, which will be nice. Alright, I would like to play first. This is workable. I will keep. So we start Swamp, Inquisition, Searing Blaze, Swift Spear, Skewer. Wow. So this hand is just terrible for us. And Combo does like nothing against Searing Blaze. I kept the wrong hand for my opponent. Okay, so Swift Spear is a huge amount of damage. We also have the most cards in our deck that answer Swift Spear, so I don't think we take Swift Spear, because we can't stop our opponent from playing one on turn 1. The question is, do we take Searing Blaze or do we take Skewer? Skewer does damage, but only after they've already done damage, which means it's like not that great with Swift Spear. Blaze is good whenever we play creatures, unless they don't have lands to play after. So, I'm going to take Skewer. Not 100% on whether that's right or not. Opponent shocks Sacred Foundry. Hits us for 1. We untap. Oh, thank the stars. Shock Godless Shrine. 3 mode. Duress, Kill, Drain. Pitching Lingering Souls and Grey Merchant. Gonna take Skullcrack. Pass the turn. Oh, I just realized it's a fetch land. I thought that was a Blood Crypt. That actually matters quite a bit, because it gives them landfall next turn. It makes combo actually kind of bad. We draw Marsh Flats, play Polluted Delta, and I'm just going to flashback Lingering Souls here. This is going to let us chump for multiple turns. I kind of just hope my opponent fetches Bloodstained Mire. They'll probably do it this turn to kill a Spirit. Okay, they play Sunbaked Canyon, so now it doesn't matter. Okay, we get Searing Blazed. So they're holding 1 Searing Blaze, 1 unknown. They go to combat. Attack for 2. We chump. We are going to fetch with Polluted Delta, get a Godless Shrine tapped. Untap. We draw Swamp. Well, play Marsh Flats, and I guess we play Combo. It gives them a target for Searing Blaze, but it also minimizes the amount of damage they do with it. It might force them to play awkwardly as well, though I'm not 100% on that one. I wish we had drawn like an Inquisition. So there's the Searing Blaze, which actually only does 1 damage to us. They're going to hit us for 2 and take us to 11. I mean, we got to draw a very good card here. You know what the worst part is like, I have to play this. Because the chance that it draws us something that gains us life is actually enormous. I don't think there's any 6-drops in our deck, but the chance that we could play like 2 3-drops does exist. Or, no, I guess it doesn't, never mind. We're still playing the land. Opponent plays Eidolon, which is bad news for us. They hit us for 1. We untap, we lose a life, we draw Lingering Souls, we draw Fatal Push. So Fatal Push, take 2 damage. That basically, we had to draw removal there. We are like so close to dead. We gotta draw something that gains us life, and a lot of it. Opponent untaps. Yep. And I had the burn. What were we drawing next turn, provided we survived with some amount of life? Never mind, Moto crashes, and we'll never know. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, here we go. Versus an unknown opponent, I want something earlier than turn 3 as a play. I really want a hand with a Thoughtseize, but I'm going to keep this because I don't want to get super, super greedy. We'll start Shambling Vent tapped into a Gifted Aetherborn, and hopefully we draw one of our many 3-drops by turn 3. Opponent starts Breeding Pool into a Noble Hierarch. We draw Fatal Push, and we have a decision to make. And I think that decision is play Gifted Aetherborn. This is really going to suck if my opponent plays a Teferi and bounces the Aetherborn, but... Oh, it's Ink Moth. It's, Infect. Well, that is a lot of Infect creatures. So what do we do here? We kill the unblockable creature, then we pass. We leave the Death Touch guy up to block and hope our opponent doesn't have enough Infect to kill us, plus a Distortion Strike. That would suck. Alright, Rancor, Trample. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks for 4. We block and take 1 Infect. Trade, they get to pick up Rancor. Sack Polluted Delta. Get a Godless Shrine. Just in case we ever have to animate Shambling Vent. Untap. We draw Kaya. Play Marsh Flats. Is it better to play Lily, or is it better to play Kaya? Both of them can make our opponent lose the Noble Hierarch. The question is, which is better? Liliana nearly guarantees Noble Hierarch die. Kaya, my opponent could have Blossoming Defense. Is it better to potentially take them down a mana and have them cast a protection spell, which is also a pump spell? Or is it better for them to just lose the mana and the Exalted? I don't actually know, but my gut instinct says to play Kaya. We'll see if I'm right or wrong here. I think Liliana sticking around, like, for upticks is probably more valuable. And if we're dead, we're just dead. So play Kaya, exile Noble. Okay, my opponent did not Blossoming Defense. Opponent untaps, plays a Forest, plays a new Noble, animates Ink Moth, Rancors Ink Moth, goes to combat, gonna hit us for 4. Okay, we go to 5 Infect, crack Marsh Flats, get a Godless Shrine, tapped, we untap, okay, cleanup step, Rancor goes to grave, and then back to hand, we untap. We do not draw instant speed interaction. Exile Noble, play Liliana, uptick, and we are dead to any pump spell. Because my opponent can animate, play Rancor, and then that's 3 damage, and any pump spell they can have would kill us. So here's the Rancor, and there's the Might of Old Kroza. Well, we had 6 kill spells that would have killed that creature at instant speed. I just didn't find it. Okay. I want Liliana the Last Hope. I want Fulminator Mage, and I want Anguished Unmaking. I may actually want Disenchant as well. Gray Merchant, Kalitas, and Obliterator's out. Try like that. I mean, we're a pile of cards that in theory interact with Infect. It's just last game we didn't draw anything that interacted with Infect in a timely manner. I'm going to keep this because we have a good curve of 1, 2, and 3. Collective Brutality would be fine killing a dork or duressing my opponent. Alright. Sneezed very hard. Porter is extremely concerned. I feel bad. Playerborg. Thoughtseize my opponent. Alright. Opponent has Spell Pierce, Veil of Summer, Blighted Agent. I'm going to take Veil because it replaces itself. They also have Vines of Vastwood. Pass the turn. This opponent's going to start Waterlogged Grove to leave up Spell Pierce. Alright. We're probably not playing anything this turn. Shambling Vent. Perfect. Play Shambling Vent. Pass the turn. So we want our opponent to just run out Blighted Agent with no protection. Opponent plays an Ink Moth Nexus. into a blighted agent with no protection. We draw a path, play a swamp, 2-mode brutality, kill duress. I'm going to pitch Marsh Flats here. I'm going to cast Obliterator at some point this game. It's just going to be slow. Take Spell Pierce. We're going to leave up Path. If my opponent dares to animate this Inkmoth Nexus. They play Wooded Foothills. They animate Inkmoth Nexus. They go to combat. They attack. We path. They can Vines here if they want to, though they gain no pump from it if they do. Alright, this is just working out right in our favor, because next turn we can play Fulminator, deal with Inkmoth. So we take 1 Infect, we untap, we draw Marsh Flats. We still play Fulminator this turn, and the reason that we do is because my opponent could have, like, Might of Old Kroza. So nuke Inkmoth. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Forest. They have a Spellskite. A very scary Spellskite. Crack for Godless Shrine. Tapped. We untap. We draw Lingering Souls. Cast the Obliterator. Card's so good. Pass the turn. Man, what was it? Juzam Djinn? It's come a long way. Alright. Opponent plays Glistener Elf. We untap. Draw another Lingering Souls. Go to combat. They definitely have Distortion Strike in their deck. But do we keep back Obliterator? What would they need to get past Obliterator? They'd need like a Vapor Snag or an Apostle's Blessing. On the other hand, Obliterator hits them for nearly a third of their life. I think we attack with Obliterator once. And get some Lingering Souls token to block. You know, haha, joke's on me if my opponent goes like +4/+4, trample double strike somehow. My luck is that Wooded Foothills fetches a Stomping Grounds, and then they like fuse Armed and Dangerous on me or something crazy like that. I'm not even sure that card does what I think it does, but I think the front half is like red colorless, +1/+1, and double strike, and the latter half is like also a pump that's like +3/+3 or something like that. It's a green-red fuse split card from Maze's End, I think. Opponent attacks for 1. The old Chumperoo. They trade. I did not expect that. Opponent is playing something. Second Glistener Elf. We draw Inquisition. We get to wonder no longer and find out what our opponent has. Vines of Vastwood defensively. Alright. Go to combat, and I dare you to block. I absolutely dare you to block. We're hitting them with this because if they top deck a land, then like trample could matter because they're natural They're doing it. They're sacking their whole board. Really? Okay. This is the second Obliterator highlight. Oh my gosh. Opponent just scoops. Okay. So we need another really interactive hand into Obliterator. Because that felt great. Well, we have Fatal Push. I'm going to keep. Hopefully we draw a third land. Otherwise we may be in for some trouble. Opponent starts Noble Hierarch, which is, I think, less scary officially than... Do we push the Hierarch? I think we do. I think second Fatal Push means that Hierarch is pushable. Because this is assuming we draw a third land, then we have Liliana Edict. When it plays Wooded Foothills and fetches, they find a Breeding Pool untapped. They play Glistener. We untap and draw Inquisition. So, Inquire. See what protection our opponent has. No! I didn't play around this! I should have played the land first. I was trying to, like, bait my opponent into a Spell Pierce, but we got veiled. Oh, that was bad. That was bad and entirely preventable. Pass the turn. Now the question is... Do we push on upkeep? Yeah, we're going to. I have regrets. I have massive, horrible regrets. Oh, I'm gonna get so destroyed here, aren't I? My opponent's gonna go, like, scale up, become immense. Just casual 15 infect on turn 3 or something crazy. Okay. We get hit for 3, we untap. We draw Thoughtseize, which is not a land like we had hoped, but is thankfully something we can cast. We are super screwed, though. Oh, did I say super screwed? Oh, we are like omega screwed right now. We needed that land. It wouldn't have helped, because my opponent would still, like... Actually, no, it would have, because my plan was to play Fulminator, and then try to block with Fulminator and nuke Inkmoth, which at that point my opponent could have failed. I am so sorry for the yawns, but it is so late for me right now. I'm like 2 hours after I normally go to bed. And that's death. Damn it! We've had such great Ferexian Obliterator wins. Well, we just can't close out a match. Dang it. Alright, well, I will see you all in round 4. Alrighty. Round 4. My body is ready. We get to be on the play! Alright. We got a Thoughtseize, we got a Fatal Push, a Collective Brutality, and a 2-drop plus the lands to cast it. And the Dream. So we're going to start Polluted Delta. Fetch up a Swamp, and Thoughtseize our opponent. Bauble, Bauble, Metallic Rebuke, Emery. Emery has affinity for artifacts, doesn't she? Which means Emery's probably got to go. Dark Slick Shore's Seachrome Coast tells me that this is my opponent trying to meme with a bad nauseum list. As in, like, they're playing Mox Amber instead of Simian Spirit Guide bad nauseum. But, who knows? Maybe I will yet be proven wrong. We get bobbled. They just gave up a Metallic Rebuke. What a fool. Oh, they're taking a look at our top 2 cards. We can Collective Brutality to take Rebuke, but my opponent is going to draw 2 cards? And then, like, maybe we have better picks? I'm going to go with the Aether board. And I am going to shock Godless Shrine. I am so sorry I keep yawning. I am fighting so hard. I drank 2 energy drinks today to have the energy to make it through the day, and it's just... I got nothing left in the tank. I've eaten 376 grams of protein. And that was enough to intimidate my opponent into conceding. Thus continues our streak of at least 1 2-ing for 3 rounds. I've got a feeling Stony Silence is probably going to be important here. Ashiok? Maybe? I'll bring in Ashiok just speculatively, and also Disenchant. I'm going to go down Grey Merchants. And Fatal Push... Go down 1 Fatal Push. I'll go down 1 Lingering Souls and 1 Obliterator, and we're going to try it like that. Well, we have a curve. Opponent starts Flooded Strand. Cracks Flooded Strand, gets a Watery Grave. Bauble. Amber. Emery Milling Engineered Explosives. Fetch land, please. Damn. Alright, Swamp, Inquisition, Thopter Foundry, Metallic Rebuke. So I cannot stop my opponent from playing Thopter Foundry next turn. Still take Thopter Foundry, I think. Okay, so this is probably just like Thopter Sword Urza or something. Opponent cracks Bauble. They want to draw another card. They untap, they draw, and then they draw for turn. They're going to replay Bauble. They pass, we untap. We draw a Swamp, which is decidedly not a fetch land. Inquisition. This should probably get rebuked. Okay. Cool. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. I really wish we'd gotten a fetch land so that we could actually kill Emery there. Opponent passes. Okay, they crack Bauble, and then they're going to replay it. I was wondering why they were just passing through their turn when they could do that. Evidently our opponent figured out that that was what they should be doing. We draw Stony Silence. Okay, what are the odds? Probably good enough. We're going to play Stony Silence. Opponent cracks Bauble in response. Alright, that's not a good sign for them. Pass the turn. They untap and draw. Singleton Stony Silence, absolutely carrying right now. Opponent currently unable to find... Okay, I was going to say currently unable to find second land. Pithing Needle. I have no idea what they name here. But they're probably just playing this out to get access to another Metallic Rebuke, maybe? No, if they had Metallic Rebuke, they would have rebuked Stony Silence unless they just drew it in their top 2 draws. They say Kaya, Orzhov, Usurper. Is that the right Kaya? Yeah, it is. Okay, opponent replays Engineered Explosives on 0. Interesting. We untap. We draw Godless Shrine, which, once again, is not a fetch land. Play Obliterator. Pass the turn. My opponent must have a Whir of Invention in their deck. But what would they get? They can't activate any of their artifacts. They gotta have like a Cryptic to bounce or something. Oh, Minamo untapping Emery seems pretty good, I imagine. They play Thopter Foundry, which they still can't activate. We untap. Draw Shambling Vent, play Shambling Vent, go to combat. Hit our opponent for 5. They go to 11. Play Gifted Aetherborn. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays another Thopter Foundry. They pass. We untap, we draw Gifted Aetherborn. Play a Swamp. Animate the Manland. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 9. They chump Obliterator. They now have to sacrifice a permanent. They sack Thopter Foundry. Do I just leave up Fatal Push? What could my opponent do? My opponent would need like a Void Snare into... I don't know what my opponent can do. I'm going to leave up Fatal Push. Yeah, it didn't matter. Alright, we got a match! We did it! Oh man, that Singleton Stony Silence. It's just the 1 out of 60 chance of killing your opponent. Oh man. I'll see you guys in round 5. That was extremely lucky on our part. That was not anything this deck was built to do. That was just, we happened to have it. Alright, round 5. Let's see if we can win back our 50 play points. Alright, we're on the draw. We have 3 spells we can cast. I think this is alright. I think. Really gonna depend on what my opponent is playing here. And they revealed a companion and I didn't even look. It's Luris. Alright, so as long as it's not Mill, I think this is a fine hand to keep. Draw Grey Merchant, play a Swamp, pass the turn. So my opponent is probably Jund Death Shadow if I had to guess. They fetch and shock a Blood Crypt, and they bolt us. How rude. They untap, they play an Overgrown Tomb after shocking. Inquisition. Well, they're gonna see the double Obliterator. They probably take Push here. Path at least gives them something. Push just takes from them. They take Push. We untap. Brutality is likely to kill exactly 0 things they can cast, so I'm going to duress them with it. I really would like to draw lands now. Opponent has a Scourge of the Skyclaves. I will take Dismember. Pass the turn. Dismember opens the door to some strange life loss trickery that Fatal Push does not. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs. Plays Scourge. Passes. We untap. Draw Marsh Flats, good. Path Scourge. I sneeze and it keeps scaring Porter. Look at him. Oh, poor guy. Hey, sorry, buddy. And he's instantly back asleep. He was just like, oh, like gone. It was really funny to watch. I feel super bad. Oh, I felt so bad. He had to be kenneled twice today. Only for about an hour and a half each time, but like... I feel so bad. He's the kind of dog that will, like, shred anything that you put in the kennel with him. So it's a hazard to, like, you can't even, like, put bedding in him. Well, of course you can't put bedding in him. That would be inhumane. But you can't put bedding in the cage with him, is what I was trying to say, but can't because I'm sleepy. And so he has to, just in cold, hard kennel, and I'm, like, so sad about it. Like, it's just terrible. Alright, land. Time to obliterate. Thoughtseize. Well, at least that deals with Luris. Assassin's Trophy. That is another thing that kills Obliterator. Take Luris. Alright, can you draw a threat before I draw a land? That is the question. And the answer is yes. But it plays a Swift Spear, hits us for 1. We untap. We draw a Fatal Push. Well, gonna do it. Pass the turn. I want my opponent to draw some weird... Alright. They play Tarmogoyf. We untap. Draw Fatal Push. Gonna do it! Pass the turn. I mean, other than drawing a land, this is probably the best sequence of top decks we could have. Opponent passes. We untap. That is not a land. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a land. They pass. We untap. There it is. Marsh Flats. Gonna get them. Get a swamp. Play a 4-mana Rampant Growth. Pass the turn. And I say Rampant Growth because this is very quickly going to be a swamp, I think. Opponent plays a Nurturing Peatland. Cycles the Peatland. They draw. They play a Bauble. Cycle Bauble. Okay, they push. We untap. They draw a card. We draw Urborg. Well, all of their lands are black anyway, so... yes, we play Obliterator, and it's just going to get trophied. They wouldn't trophy Kalitas. They would definitely do something else. So we get Assassins trophied, get a Swamp. Opponent untaps. They play a Tarmogoyf, which is now a 5/6. We draw Gifted Aetherborn. Play Gifted Aetherborn. Then play Kalitas. Cletus. I don't know how to say his name. Pass the turn. Opponent attacks. Block with the Death Toucher. Prepare for Teamer Battle Rage. They always have it. I don't know how, but they always do. We go to 5. Opponent shocks a Blood Crypt to go to 10, and then plays Death Shadow. No cards in my opponent's hand. We untap. Draw Swamp. Do we attack here? I could play Grey Merchant, drain my opponent for 4. If I attack, this Death Shadow becomes a 6/6. We have, in theory, a Grey Merchant to chump next turn, and then we just Grey Merchant them to kill them. If I attack, I take them to 7. I Grey Merchant them down to 3, and then I chump Death Shadow. Okay, yeah, that's our only line for victory here. Go to combat. Attack for 3. If they draw removal that can hit Grey Merchant, we're just screwed. It can't be Lightning Bolt, it can't be Fatal Push, and... I mean, it could be Dismember, it would have to be full price, but that's doable. Grey Merchant. Drain our opponent for 4. They go to 3. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. We gotta fade this draw. It's just a Swamp. It looks like we got him. Opponent attacks for 10. We block. I don't think there's... They could fetch up a basic, and they could actually hit us for 11, but that was fine. We untap. Draw Gifted Aetherborn. Get him, Gary. Yeah, Gary. Gary Lethal. I haven't done that. I have not killed an opponent with Grey Merchant since original Theros Standard. And that was shortly before I stopped playing Standard permanently. So versus our opponent's deck, I think I want the Ashioks and the Anguished Unmaking. And we are going to cut Collective Brutality. Actually, I'm not going to bring in the Anguished Unmaking. And I'm going to cut 1 Grey Merchant. It was really good there because we had 2 of them, but I think in the general case, it's probably not that good versus our opponent. We're probably dead before we ever get there. All right, we're going to keep. We got a curve. Opponent starts Bauble, cracks Bauble. They shock a Blood Crypt into an Inquisition. So they can take Inquisition or they can take Lily. They probably take Inquisition, just because that's our spell we were kind of banking on to slow our opponent down. If they take Lily, that means they basically have nothing of consequence in their hand. Okay, they untap, or we untap, they draw. We draw Gifted Aetherborn. So Swamp, Inquisition. Death Shadow, Dismember, Lightning Bolt. Well, take Dismember, pass the turn, and we're taking Dismember because Dismember can answer Obliterator when our opponent's other spells would be very bad at doing that. My opponent can fetch, shock, and bolt themselves. Maybe I did not think that all the way through. If I had taken Lightning Bolt, there's a good chance my opponent wouldn't be able to play anything this turn. They're getting an Overgrown Tomb untapped. They shock down to 15, they bolt down to 12, which means Death Shadow could be a 1/1. But I mean, like, that way we at least get to resolve this Gifted Aetherborn. Now we have to choose between playing Ashiok on turn 3 or Obliterator on turn 4, and I think we play Ashiok first. That would stop my opponent from casting something like Traverse the Ulvenwald. It would shrink any Goyfs. Further fetch lands would not be good. Opponent goes to combat and passes. We untap. We draw a Thoughtseize. Opponent has one unknown card in hand. If it's removal for this Gifted Aetherborn, we are probably screwed. Because that would be like Fetch Shock. I'm going to Thoughtseize my opponent, which means I'm playing Shambling Vent. Scourge of the Skyclaves. Alright, play Shambling Vent tapped. And we're going all in on Obliterator next turn. No attacks. I mean, I could play Ashiok, and I might have to, because that might be the only way we can deal with the bauble, but... Opponent untaps, they draw a card. Please just be a land. Please just be a land. They put Lurrus in their hand. They attack. So kill a Death Shadow. We untap, draw Shambling Vent. Play Marsh Flats. Fetch a Swamp. Play Obliterator. Opponent has to choose between Lurrus or removal next turn. They play a Forest. They play Bauble. Crack Bauble. Lurrus, Bauble, Crack Bauble. Oh, they can Lurrus and replay Death Shadow. I didn't think about that. They play Death Shadow. Strangely enough, they don't attack. We untap, they draw a card. We draw Kaya. If I hit my opponent for 5 down to 4, they have lethal on the swing back, right? Like, these each become 9. So Ferexian Obliterator can't actually attack right now. We need to exile our opponent's grave, which means we have to play Ashiok this turn. I'm hoping we can maybe get like a lucky Kaya and sneak in some damage or something. My opponent only leaves back one blocker. I don't know. I'm very tired. It is very late. It is now almost 3 hours past my bedtime. Inquisition for Kaya? No! Don't do that. I mean, them attacking is just a losing proposition, right? They're gonna do it. Well, they're gonna have to sack 4 permanents. This feels like a calculated risk. Opponent can, in theory, replay 1 if they keep Lurrus and a land. Yeah, they can replay a Shadow. I would like to draw removal. I mean, Lingering Souls isn't removal, but it kind of gets the job done. They can't top deck Temur Battle Rage, and even like if they had a Forked Bolt, that wouldn't be enough to kill us. So we go to combat, we attack, take our opponent down to 4, Lingering Souls for blockers, flashback Lingering Souls for more blockers, pass the turn. Let's see what our opponent top decks. A land that they can't even fetch and shock. I think we got him. Chump here, take 3, opponent gains 3, goes to 7, we swing back 7, 8, 9. Yeah, buddy. Alright, so I'm not going to take a super long time to do a huge recap, so, but I have a few things here. Number 1, I do not like how diverse this sideboard is in terms of, like, singles, and it's really weird having all of your sideboard cards, with the exception of 2, be in the 3 and 4 drop slot. Like, Extinction Event, I understand. The card's great in certain circumstances. I don't think we need Arena. Eradicator Valkyrie can probably be a different creature. I don't know how relevant the Hexproof from Planeswalkers ever would be. I'm cool with Fulminator, Ashiok, Combal, and Anguished Unmaking. Although, I think, like, a Liliana the Last Hope is probably a card that should be in the main deck of this deck. And then, like, the rest of these cards should be 1 and 2 drops. Additional copies of Rest in Peace. Maybe they're Leylines of the Void. Leyline of the Void goes well with Grey Merchant. I mean, we have a lot of Grave Hate between Rest in Peace and Ashiok, so it probably should be other things. But point number 2, Phyrexian Obliterator, actually amazing. Just as sweet as I remember it ever being. Versus the Death Shadow, we did get to see a little bit of its fragility in the first game that we played with them, because they had, like, all of their removal spells just kill it. and they kill it at a sweet price for them. So it is a lot worse with Fatal Push and Bloodchief's Thirst running around in the format, in addition to Path. And Assassin's Trophy is a card that I didn't consider that does kill Obliterator. But our bird opponent had to double Searing Blaze it, which just strikes me as the 420 YOLO swag Blaze it play, and they lost because of it. And the Death Shadow player had to had this really awkward attack into it, which I really didn't think they were going to make that attack. I thought they were just going to try and wait it out, which I think they maybe should have done, but Obliterator, the card's still fantastic. I'm looking forward to it because this card is getting an update. It will be getting functional errata when they introduce the Phyrexian creature type, which is something that's going to be happening soon. So this will be a Ferexian horror, which could be relevant. Could enable some kind of Ferexian deck, maybe. Because playing Cavern of Souls on horror is kind of difficult because the only two playable horrors that I know of, asterisk, is Spellskite and Ferexian Obliterator. And those are two cards that you could play in a deck together because Spellskite does protect Ferexian Obliterator. But, I'm trying to think of, are there any other good horrors off the top of my head? There's Hunted Horror, but you got to build your deck around that. I think there was a Horrors deck that somebody tried to make as a meme, specifically for playing Ferexian Obliterator off of Cavern of Souls. But anyway, Phyrexian creature type update might change the playability of this card to the positive. And I don't think this card is very expensive right now, especially on Moto. So if you don't have any and you like Phyrexian Obliterator, maybe pick up the card if it's not too expensive. It is currently 3 tickets apiece, so I would advise you to make your own judgment on that. We probably could have played Castle Lochthwain in this deck. It would have been mana intensive, and generally we had some number of cards in hand. But I think I love Phyrexian Arena. I absolutely love casting this card, and I love the play patterns around it. But it's so dang slow, and that's why it's a 1-of in this deck. I really think we should be playing a Castle Lochthwain or two instead of a Swamp. Drop the Phyrexian Arena, either bring Liliana Last Hope in from the side, or play a 3rd Liliana, a 3rd Kaya, or some other kind of spell. Maybe we even play the 4th Thoughtseize. Yeah, I think that's all I got for right now. If you like this video and you want to see more, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. And, yeah, I want you to know that you're all wonderful human beings. I really appreciate you guys' support, and I will see you in the next one. I am going to get some sleep. Good night!